Hi, everybody. Nate, I can still see you big. How do I fix that?
Oh, yeah. Let me get you pinned here. 1 second.
Excuse me.
Spotlight. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Cool. Not that I don't love seeing you, Nate.
I don't take it personally. No worries.
Hi, everybody. Happy Saturday to you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Sarah, and I am a design team member for Beadalon. And normally I have Meredith here with me in the chats, but Meredith was unable to join us today, but that's okay. I think we can totally handle this without her. We do miss her, though, and hope that she is having a great weekend. So today's project is, just like Nate said, it is rings, 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 which means I've got 3 different ring designs for you guys. This is a beginner-friendly project. I try to keep most everything kind of beginner-friendly, but this is definitely one that I think that everybody is going to be able to recreate very easily, and it's fun. Rings are fun. It's probably one of the #1 most requested jewelry tutorials when it comes to being a designer. I myself and some of my friends in the industry can, definitely have had that be the case. People want to know how to make rings because rings is something that you wear not just for other people, but you also wear it for yourself because you can see it, right? Whereas if I have on earrings, the only person who can see those is you. They may make me feel a certain way, but I can't necessarily see them unless I look in the mirror. Whereas with rings and bracelets, those are like shareable jewelry, if that makes any sense. So that's how I view rings. And I think that's why they are very, very popular, and wire rings are really easy to create. So I'm hoping to kind of demystify any of the intimidation factor that you may have when it comes to making wire rings, because I've got three, and I'm going to show you just how easy those are. So let's get down to work. I'm going to show you the beads and the kinds of wire that you're going to need, and we're going to get right to it. So let me turn you around. All right. Well, maybe I'll turn you around. You could just look at the ceiling. Either way. There we go. Okay, so let me show you the 3 samples that I have so that you can see where we're going. So the first ring we're going to make today is a kind of a delicate, dainty ring, if you will. Not all rings have to be super big and bold. A lot of times just understated is very, very beautiful, and you can't go wrong with pearls, right? So we're going to put together this really lovely pearl ring, and we're going to be using 22 gauge artistic wire for this, and we are using some small pearls. I'll just go ahead and show those as we're talking about them. So I say this every time. If you've had classes with me in the past, you know how I feel about these hanging cards that have multi-strands. I love when I can have more than 1 strand of beads on 1 card. Look at how many pearls there are here. These glass pearls are absolutely gorgeous, and I only need 3 to make this ring, which leaves me so many more to recreate this design several times or to make other jewelry with it. So definitely a good bang for your buck. The second ring that we are going to make is very similar, but looks very different. So it's similar in the way that we create it, but the results are different. So I love these crystal chunks. They're one of my favorite kind of raw looking bead to work with. So we're going to be using these, and we're going to just make a very simple ring. And I don't know, there's just something about that just, it makes me really, really happy. However, if you don't like this look, you can use a different bead here. You don't have to use the chunks, but if you want to use the chunks, I use the peach for the sample, but for the actual project today, we're going to be using the purple. So Michael's actually has these really cool chunk beads in a lot of different colors. So I had the peach, and I thought it would be really cool to have one in a purple. So we're going to use the purple for today, but the peach color is in the materials list. Okay. And then last but not least, we're going to do a little wire wrapped ring using some seed beads. Seed beads and thin gauge wire work perfectly with each other. And this is a really easy kind of weaving back and forth project, and is very, very easy to recreate and get the size that you want, because you can be sizing along as you go. Whereas with these rings, you kind of have to know ahead of time what size you want. Whereas this one, you can really just kind of work along and decide what finger you want it to fit on and how much further you need to go. Okay, so we're going to start here with this one right here. We're going to start with our pearls. And you're going to need a ring mandrel. I am using my Beadalon mandrel, but Michael's has a, let's see here. So it's the Bead landing ring mandrel, and it's actually a lot larger than this one. This one's just one I've had for a million years. But the one that Bead Landing has is really, really nice. It's very large though. Just be prepared when you go shopping for that one because it's a full size. You're also going to be needing some 22 gauge wire. And like I said, we're using artistic wire for this. A lot of times for projects that I do, I use a 22 gauge, but I use a German style wire. But I have found that when it comes to making rings, it's much easier to use artistic wire than the German style wire, just because it is a dead soft wire. So it makes it really easy to manipulate it. It's not a deal breaker if German style is all you have. Just know that it is just a little bit trickier to work with. All right, so to get started, we are going to trim our beads here off of our strand. So I'm just going to cut the end of that. And all I need is just three little pearls to get started. And I'm going to sit these to the side so the rest of those don't fall off of the strand. All right, so for the first step, you want to take your 22 gauge wire and you want to cut about 18 inches of this, okay? And when you have your 18 inches cut, you want to take your pearls or whatever beads you're using. These are 4 millimeters, so I like to use the very small ones in this project, but you can use whichever size you want to. In fact, the steps are exactly the same, regardless of what size beads you use. So you want to thread those beads on and you want to bring those to the middle or as close to the middle of your 18 inches of wire as you can possibly get it. Now what you want to do is you want to, let me move everything out of the way here so you don't knock anything over. You want to, I like to kind of bend my wire just a little bit, just to kind of mark where that middle is so it doesn't slip and slide as I go to put this on the mandrel. But you want to take your mandrel and take a look at the sizing here. And you want to place your ring 1/2 to 1 hole. Now I'm going to say 1/2 since we're only using 22 gauge wire here. Normally, if you were using 20 gauge wire, you want to go an entire size bigger than what you actually need. So for instance, if you were using 20 gauge wire instead of 24 and you wanted a size 6 ring, you want to start at the 7. Since we are using the 22 gauge wire, which is a little bit smaller, if we want a size 7 ring, we're going to come down here and work at around 8.5. Okay, so just a half size larger. Place your beads right up against the mandrel and your wires are coming towards the back of the mandrel. You want to pick up one of those wires, it doesn't matter which one, and you want to wrap it around the mandrel all the way around one time and then back up to the front. Okay. So on the back, you've got 3 bands, right? Then we want to take this bottom wire and we want to wrap it to the bottom of our beads, right? Because this one was at the top of our beads. This one's going around the bottom of our beads. We're going all the way around and back up to the front. Now it's a little tricky to kind of hold everything in place. You can put your mandrel down if you need to kind of tighten your wires. Try very hard to keep your wires from crisscrossing each other if possible. Now, I know that can be a little bit tricky and that really just comes with practice. But when you're looking at the back of the ring mandrel, you want to try to keep those wires all lined up. Okay. And you do want to keep your fingers on everything to kind of pinch everything together here. Okay. Don't let everything slide out on you. All right, so this is what I've got, okay? I've got one wire going one direction and one wire going the other direction. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to take one of the wires, it doesn't matter which one, okay? I'm gonna take one of these wires, I'm gonna start with this top wire, and I'm gonna wrap it around all 3, right? Just around the bottom of all 3 of those beads. When I get to the bottom wire, I'm going to let go of this top wire and I'm going to pick up the bottom wire and I'm going to wrap it around all 3 around the top. Okay. And you can go another time if you want to. So with this one, for the sample, I actually went around twice. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick up the other wire, come around the bottom one more time. When I meet up with this wire, I'm going to go around the top again. Now you want to stop where one wire is going upwards and one wire is coming downwards, okay? Now you very carefully want to slide all of this off of the mandrel. Make sure that you're holding everything nice and tight. You don't want to let go of any of this until you have done your wire wraps around the bands, okay? So we're going to pinch all of these together. And I'm going to hold on tight. I'm going to take this right wire over here, and I'm going to kind of bend it around and stick it towards the inside of the bands, right? All those bands. We're coming to the inside of the ring, and I'm going to pull. And what I want to do is I want to bundle around all of those bands. So now I'm going to wrap around another time. I'm going to take that wire, and I'm just using my fingers to bundle that wire around all of those rings. 2 times. I'm going to go one more time. Okay. So I've got 3 wraps around all of the bands. Now I'm going to turn my ring over to the other side, and I'm going to repeat that over here on the other side. So I'm just taking my wire, taking it to the inside of the rings and just wrapping around all of the bands. And if you struggle doing this with your fingers, you can always use your pliers to guide that wire. And you can always come in later with your pliers to kind of clean everything up. Okay. So you just want to pinch those wires together to kind of tidy them up a little bit. I like to pinch them all together as much as I can. Take a look at the ring from the side. Now at this point, you may have your ring shape may have come out a little bit. You may have more of an oval, right? But we're going to put it back on the mandrel to straighten it all back up. But before we do any of that, we want to come in and we want to trim off the excess wire. And I like to do that towards the outer edge of my band so that it's not on the inside and it's not going to rub up against my finger. So if you make your cut, make it towards the top, but also like over to the side. It just wears a little bit more comfortably if you do that. Okay, and I'm going to do the other side as well, just trimming off that excess wire. Now, again, we're going to put this back on the mandrel to stretch it and get it right where we want it. So you can see I started at 8.5 and I ended up with a ring that is right about 7. Now, something you will notice is that my bands, they have crisscrossed a little bit, but for the most part, back here towards the back, the part that actually sits on the inside of your finger, that's where I don't want any of those twists. It just feels more comfortable if all of your wires are lined up in a row like that. So there you go. That's your first ring. How easy was that? Super, super easy. And if we've got time at the end, I may show this one to you again, but I think you're going to see with the second ring, it is the exact same steps, just a little bit different. So I don't want to make that promise. I think you're going to see with the second one, it is very, very similar. But then you've got yourself a little ring, and it just makes a cute little setting, if you will, for your little beads, right? All right, so we're going to move on to the next ring. So I'm going to pick a bead from this one. Let me show you the size of the original. So my original, I didn't want it to be super big, but now it's totally up to you. It's going to work no matter which size of these chunky pieces that you pick. You can go bold and pick one of the really big ones. I tend to stay towards like the medium size ones. I'm going to find one here that looks like the size that I want. I actually really like this one right here at the very top, of course. The one at the very top of this strand. So I'm going to trim that off. I'm going to pull that one out. This one would also be a really good one too. Let me pull these two. There's 2 side by side here. I like those. The medium to small ones, that's just kind of my personal preference, but everybody is a little bit different about theirs. So this one would be a little on the large side. I always like to look at them and see like where they are drilled and see how they are going to sit on the finger, because some of them don't have a flat side that's going to sit nicely. You know, it kind of comes to a point on the back, or, you know, whichever. So I like to look ahead of time and kind of get an idea of what this one is actually going to look like on the hand. I feel like it just kind of helps to. Okay, I think I'm going to go with this one here in the middle of the two that I picked. It's really the size that I'm going for, and it's got a pretty flat part on the top and on the bottom. Now, with this one, I'll show you, we do the exact same steps, but for this one, we don't go around the base of the bead. You can see it's completely open. It does wiggle a little bit. If that bugs you, you can tighten it down. I think over time, mine has just gotten a little bit looser as I've had it, but you can see there's no wrapping around like we did. We didn't bundle around on this one, but the steps are basically the same. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this time though, we're going to use a piece of 20 gauge wire. So we're going to use a little bit thicker gauge wire for this, but again, it is still the artistic wire because it's nice and soft. And we are using another 18-inch piece. Okay, so same steps. I'm going to thread my bead onto my wire, and I want to find the middle of the 18 inches. And when I find the middle, I do like to kind of bend my wire around that bead to kind of mark that spot, right? Okay, now I've got to open it back up a little bit though, so that it will fit on the ring mandrel. And again, same steps. We're going to put this on the ring mandrel, but since we're using a 20 gauge wire, we want to go up a full size. So if I want a size 7 ring, I'm going to come down here to the 8, right? Any size that you want it to be, go up a full size. And all of your wires, again, are coming to the back. Okay. The steps are exactly the same. Pick one of the wires and you're going to go all the way around the mandrel. But when you come up here to your bead, you can see because this bead is long this direction, we actually want to take that wire and very carefully put it underneath the bead, okay, so that it sits underneath. Okay, wrap all the way around and back up to the front again. And again, we want to try to position it so that those wires are sitting underneath that bead. Now we want to do the same thing with the bottom wire, and it is going to be the bottom wire because this one is towards the top. So same steps. We're going to go all the way around the mandrel. Okay. And again, when we get up here to the bead, try to coax that wire underneath the bead, go all the way around again, and back here towards the top. Underneath. Now, when we turn it this direction and look, we've got the same thing that we had before, right? We've got a wire coming out to the right and a wire coming out to the left. Everything may be a little loose. You can really tighten things up. I like to push my mandrel up against my work surface and then pull those wires. That just kind of helps to cinch up any looseness in the bands that are going around. Okay. Now, I bundled all those wires, right? I've pinched them all together. I'm holding them in place with my fingers. Now, I'm going to take one wire that's over here to this side. I'm going to just take it over here to the right side. This one, I'm going to take over here, or I'm sorry, to the left side. This one, I'm going to go over here. So we didn't build a bundle, but we definitely did. Actually, you know what? Did I do that with this one? I'm not even sure that I did do that with this one. Let's undo that. Yeah, let's just leave it like it is. We're not even going to bundle around a single time. You can if you want to, but we're going to leave this one without the bundle. So what we need to do is we need to be really careful this time when we go to take this off of the mandrel. Now, I am going to trim off a little bit of my wire because it's a little too much to work with. So I'm going to trim a little bit off of both sides. Now I'm going to slide this off the mandrel very carefully because we haven't made that little nest at all. So there's really nothing that's holding everything together yet. Slide that off and hold everything in place. Okay, now this wire that just naturally came out here to the right side when we stopped wrapping around, that's going to be the wire that we're going to use to bundle around all of our wires. And this time I'm going to use my tool just to show you if it's easier for you to use your tool, your pliers, just to tuck that to the inside, right? And then again, second time. So 3 times around is all you need to secure, but the more times around you wrap after 3, the smaller your ring is going to be. Because remember, you're actually creating, you're making a smaller ring here with the more wraps. Does that make sense at all? Your wraps around do take up some of the interior. That's why we go a whole full size larger on the mandrel than what size ring, whoops, I'm sorry, we actually need. Okay, so I've come around for my 3rd time. That's the perfect place over here. It's coming out towards the edge to come in and trim off my wire. Now I'm going to turn the ring over and I'm just going to repeat this process over here on the other side. So again, holding everything in place, take the wire and give it a bend and just go ahead and start bending it in kind of a, you know, we're doing like a little lasso, right? We're lassoing around all of those bands. And if you need your pliers, go ahead and grab those. Use your tools. That's what they're for. Your fingers are great, but the tools exist to help, right? I definitely feel like I can pull a little bit harder on the wire with my pliers than I can with my fingers. So, all right, so just taking it to the inside, pulling and wrapping around. All right, so now we're on this outside edge again. That's the perfect place to come in and trim off. So we're going to trim off that wire. And we're just going to take a look at what we've got. So my ring is a little offset, just a little bit, but I'm going to put it back on the mandrel. The mandrel is our friend, right? It's going to help us to get that back to the shape that we want. Now, remember, we started at 8 and we're finishing right here at 7. So you definitely need to start a size larger because that wrapping around and the bands that go around, that kind of takes all of, that takes that extra slack, right, from that full size of ring. It doesn't necessarily look like it would make that big of a difference, but it really does. So definitely start a full size larger. And there you go. That's it. So you can see this one is very, very similar to this one as far as your steps are concerned, minus the wrap around, right? We don't do the wrap around just the bead part. We just go ahead and take our ends and bundle those around. So take this one off. You can see. And this would be a really cool one to put extra beads. So you have this like one chunk bead here in the middle, but you could put maybe like 2 little crystals. You could put a crystal here and a crystal here, or you could put some seed beads in here. So there are a lot of different things that you can do with this exact technique. In fact, if you wanted, where in place of where with this one, we bundled around the outside edge of the beads, right? You could fill that up with seed beads. And instead of going and bundling around the bottom, the base of the bead, you could actually come across the top and make some bands of seed beads or just smaller beads coming across the top surface of your main bead. So there are a lot of different options with just this technique. It can be very versatile. You can turn this into a lot of different styles, and the technique is very, very similar. So once you learn this one, you can really, alter it and make it your own. But they are different, right? Because this one's got a bundle around the bottom. We built like a little nest setting, whereas this one doesn't have that. This one is just the bands running underneath it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you one more. And this one is completely different, but also one that can be turned into something else. Okay, so for this one, This one has all of these gorgeous seed beads running through it. And I am using for this one, I'm using the John Beads Czech glass seed beads. I'm using a size 6. You can use whatever size you want to. However, keep in mind that we are going to be passing through a couple of these beads 2 times with our 26 gauge wire. So I do recommend a little bit bigger, right? A little bit bigger seed bead than an 11. I just don't think an 11 with wire is going to work. Now, if you wanted to do it with beading thread, you absolutely could. And you could get away with smaller beads. So I'm using these blue iris. I absolutely love these. And everybody's ring is going to be a little bit different. So not everybody is going to have the same amount of beads for their ring, but it doesn't take a lot. As far as wire, I mentioned we are going to be using the 26 gauge wire for today's project, or for this ring rather. As we used 22 for the first ring, 20 for the second, and now we're going way down to the 26, which is much thinner wire. So the first thing that you want to do with this one is very similar to the way that we have started the others. So you want to cut about 18 to 20 inches of this, and you want to thread on 3 seed beads, and you want to bring these to the center of your 18 to 20 inch piece of wire. If you're going to need a little bit bigger of a ring, then let's see what size this one is. So this one is a size 8. If you need bigger than a size 8, you might want to use 20 inches of wire instead of 18, just to be sure that you've got plenty to work with. Okay. All right, so we're going to take our 3 beads and we're going to bring those to the center of our piece of wire. Okay. And now we are going to find the ends of our wire. Mine is not exactly centered, but it's pretty close. It's close enough. It's close enough. Okay, we're going to, hold on, get those ends together again. And I will trim those off just so that they are even, right? We're going to take another seed bead and we're going to thread that onto one end of the wire. I'm not going to drop that all the way down yet though, because I'm going to take the other end of the wire and I'm going to thread it through that exact same seed bead, but this time I'm running it in the opposite direction. So these 2 wires are actually going to cross within the inside of our seed bead. Now I want to very gently, because it is wire, it's not cord, it's not thread, you got to be easy. I'm going to pull this bead down to the other 3 to make a little flower out of our beads. So we've got a little 4 bead flower. Okay, now I'm just going to repeat this. This is actually all there really is to this project. So on one end of my wire, I'm going to pick up 1 bead. On the other one, I'm going to pick up 1 bead, right? So we're using both ends of our wire. This would be the equivalent of a 2 needle project if you were doing this with beading thread. So there's a bead on either one, and then we're going to pick up a 3rd bead. And before we pull it down, we're going to cross both wires. They're running in opposite directions inside that bead, and then pull all of that down, right? Just like that, okay? And we're just going to repeat this. We're going to repeat this until we have enough of these that they'll fit around our finger. So you really can kind of do this. You can do your measuring as you work, right? Now, if you want to make a few of these, right, with different sizes, and then that way, if you're making these for customers or you're making them for your website, you'll know how many beads will make up what size of ring. But if you're just doing it for yourself, you can measure as you go. So we crossed our wires through our 3rd bead, and we are just pulling it down very carefully. Now, I'm not pulling really, really hard. This 26 gauge wire, if you pull it too hard or too quickly, a couple of things are going to happen. Number one, if you're pulling too quickly, the bead can actually strip off that nice coating that's on the outside of your wire. So just be mindful of that. Number 2, if you pull it too quickly, you do risk breaking it because it is just a 26 gauge wire. It's very, very thin. All right, so a bead on one side, a bead on the other side. Okay. And then we're going to pick up a third bead and we're going to cross both wires running in opposite directions through that bead. And I just very gently kind of pull each side a little bit at a time until I pull it down into place. Okay. One on one side, one on the other. Okay, picking up a third bead, and we're going to cross our wires running in opposite directions and pull down. Sharon says this would make a great bracelet. It absolutely would. So that leads me to telling you all of the different things you can do with this design. So yes, you can make a ring out of this, which is really super simple, and that's what we're doing. You can make this bigger, right? And make a really cool bracelet out of this. And at the end, you could wire wrap a clasp to it, or you could just use jump rings. Particularly if you're using the seed beads with a little bit larger hole, a jump ring will also fit, through there to finish off your design. So you can attach your clasps to the jump ring. Or you can actually turn this into hoop earrings, which is really cool. You would do this the exact same way that you're making a ring, right? So maybe you just want to make a larger ring, and then you would actually either do a knotted head pin or a head pin that has perhaps a larger head on it. Bring it through the center of one of these little flowers, do a wrapped loop, add a bead to it if you wanted to, and then an ear wire, and you've got a really cool hoop earring. So this design, as simple as it is, has so many design possibilities. It's a very cool, easy technique that you can recreate. And when you do it with wire instead of a beading needle and thread, you don't have to worry about any knots. You don't have to worry about weaving your ends in or any of that. I know some people really enjoy seed beading, and I am one of those people, but I do have a lot of students that are intimidated by needles and thread. And so using wire is just easier for them. So this is a good alternative if you want to make seed bead projects, but you don't want to use beading thread and a needle. All right, so pulling this down again, now we can kind of get an idea, right? This works up pretty quickly. We can kind of get an idea of how much further we want to go depending on what finger we want it on. So if I wanted to put this on my first finger, I can tell by laying it up against my finger, I'm about halfway, right? So I can guess I'm going to do another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 more of these little flowers to get all the way around my finger. But I will double check. So I'm going to do 6 more, and then we'll hold it up against our finger to see. Okay. So again, a seed bead on one, a seed bead on the other, and then we are going to take a third seed bead and crisscross. Now, also, if you don't want to use seed beads, you can use really small beads for this as well. You can use 3mm beads. You can use 4mm beads. I don't know that I would go any larger than a 4mm bead, just because it might be a little bit uncomfortable to wear. Maybe you could mix it up and do like smaller beads towards the inside of your hand and your larger beads across the top. A lot of ways you can alter this. So a lot of fun possibilities. A lot of fun possibilities. All right, so a bead on one, a bead on the other. We're going to pick up a third bead and cross our wire. So our other wire is going through that same bead, just in the opposite direction, right? They're sharing the same interior space, just running opposite each other. Pull them down. Okay. All right, we're going to do a few more, and then we'll do a little measuring again. So 1 on each end of the wire, and then pick up a third one and cross the wires just through that one and pull down. Okay. Getting pretty close, right? I could do maybe 3 more, 2 more, 2 more. Let's do 2 more and see. I don't want it to be too tight, right? So we'll do 2 more and check it, and it may end up we need 3. So a bead on either end, and then we're going to pick up another bead, cross our wires within, pull down. Okay, and let's do one more little set. So one on one side, one on the other, a bead for the middle, cross the 2 wires and pull down. Okay. And now I'm going to check it. All right, so that looks perfect. Okay, so now we have to figure out how to connect our 2 ends together, right? This time we've already got 2 beads out of our 4 that are going to make our circle, right? So if I bring these together, it's a little bit easier to see if it's off of my finger. So see these 2 little beads, those will be part of our final flower. But I need a bead here and a bead here. So I'm going to take my 2 ends of the wire, just like we were doing before. I'm going to pick up 1 bead on one side and 1 on the other. But this time, instead of crossing through a 3rd bead that I have to pick up, we're actually going to cross through this bead right here, the center bead on the opposite end. Now, you want to be very careful and go slow with this, okay? Because this bead already has wire running through it. It has a lot of open space in there. There's plenty of room, but you still just want to be careful. So we're going to take that wire and run it through that bead. Okay. Now we're going to take the other wire and we're going to run it through that same bead going in the opposite direction. Now this single bead has 3 wires running through it, right? So we're going to pull very gently to pull all of this down, close up the space in between. And there we have connected our ring, right? But if we just leave it like this, it's going to come undone, of course, right? So let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to take our ends and we're actually going to thread through some more of these beads a couple of times. I'm only going to go through this flower and the next flower, and I'm going to do 1 wire at a time. Now remember, we're passing through beads that already have wire going through them. So again, go slow. We're just going to follow the path, right? So we're going to start with the right wire. The right wire is coming out of this bead, coming this direction. Following the natural path of the wire that already exists, I'm going to go through the next bead, okay? And I'm going to pull very carefully. And you do have to kind of coax that wire so that it doesn't get a kink, nasty bend in it, right? Pull that through there. Now I'm going to go through the next bead, which is a center bead. Okay. And again, I'm going to pull that wire, making sure that my wire is more of a loop out here so that it pulls smoothly. As I pull it through, I did get a kink in that one. See the little kink? And that's all right, because now I get to show you how to fix that. So pull it out a little bit, right? And try to straighten that out as much as you can with your pliers. And then go again, really making sure that you've got that kind of bubbly lasso shape. And going slow will help. There, I got it that time. Okay. Now, pull everything up nice and tight again. Okay. If you want to, you can do this. This is not necessary, but you can. Okay. I'm going to show you what you can do. I'm going to trim off some of that wire. And you actually can wrap around. So see this space between these two beads? See that little tiny piece of wire that's going between there? You can actually take this 26 gauge wire and wire wrap around that if you want to, like once or twice, right? And then trim it off. If you find that that is just too tight of a space to do any wire wrapping and you're just not super comfortable with that, leave that step out. Okay, so let me show you with the other end what I would do. Okay, so again, we've got this left-handed wire. We need to thread it through a couple of beads too. So we're going to take it down through the next bead, right? Just following that natural path of the wire. We're not making any new pathways or crisscrossing over any of the beads. We're just going in the same path, just kind of reinforcing a little bit. I'm going to take this wire, I'm going through that center bead. I can get it to fit through there. Now that I've done a wire wrap right there, a little tighter space. Okay, but it will fit. You have to use your pliers to kind of coax it through. Can you see it's just barely coming through? Because again, this one bead, like the one where we stopped, it now has 3 wires coming through it. That's a lot. It's a lot of wire for one seed bead. So just go slow. Okay. Pull. Again, I don't want to kink in this, so I'm just going to use my pliers, kind of open that up a little bit as I pull. All right, so if you don't want to do the wire wrap on there in that tiny, tiny little space, just cut it off. In fact, in the original directions, I'm pretty sure that that's what I told you to do, was just to cut it off. And the reason being is because the wire wrap, it's okay. It would be like the equivalent of tying a knot if you were doing this with thread. However, you've gone through several of the little flowers with your wire a second time. It's not going to undo. It's not going to come undone. The only way it would come undone is if you cut that wire right where you stopped, where you brought the 2 ends of the ring together. That's why I say go through another flower or 2 before you cut off. Then that way, you know for sure that there's no way that wire is going to work itself back through 2 flowers. If that were to begin to happen, you would be able to see it ahead of time before your ring came undone, right? So, and there you go. You've got your little ring. Let's find out what this one ended up being. I'm pretty sure this one's going to be about an 8, 8.5. Yeah, right about 8.5 for this one. So I used, let's see, what did I say? I used 18 inches of wire, but now everybody's is going to be a little bit different because everybody's fingers are a little bit different. But there you go. Pretty easy to do and can very easily be turned into other things. In fact, several of these, right? If you had several of these rings made, they make really cool, very large hole beads that you could actually put over sari ribbon or even scarves, right? You could tie some scarves and run these over the scarves and maybe even hang things from them if you wanted to. The possibilities are really endless, and it's such an easy design that it really kind of opens up so many different little things that you can make. These even make great napkin rings for the holidays. I mean, it's just a really handy little thing that you can do with wire that you really can turn into, I don't know, hundreds probably of different little things and different looks depending on different rings, you know, or different beads that you use. So all right, everybody, let's just take a look at what we've done so far today, because I feel like it's been a short class, but we've actually accomplished quite a lot. We have made 3 beads, or I'm not 3 beads. We've made 3 beaded rings out of wire in one class. I'm showing you 2.5. We'll call it 2.5 different techniques. Right, because these 2 are very similar with just one difference, but 2.5 different techniques to create some rings that you can recreate and give as gifts, or, you know, just make for yourself some instant gratification, fun little jewelry that is really a very personal piece to make as a ring. All right, I'm going to turn you guys around. We are going to say our goodbyes for the day. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me for this class. I appreciate you spending your Saturday with me. It has been a lot of fun. If you are looking to take another class with me, I'll be back in just a few days, actually, with a really cool knotted pearl tassel necklace project coming up. So go and sign up for that if you're interested in that, something very different than what we did today. All right, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the weekend, you guys.
Before we go, Sarah, just real quick,
Sure.
I just want to interrupt the flow of the class there, but there's just a couple questions I saw in the chat that we could get answered just right at the end there, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry to interrupt again, but yes. So we had some people asking about the artistic wire in terms of if it tarnishes or turns, the fingers green or anything like that. Does it do that, and how would we counteract that if it did?
All right, so that's a really, really good question. So, and I'm gonna be completely transparent and upfront and honest with you guys. So the artistic wire, particularly the silver ones, are called tarnish resistant silver. Now, let's be completely honest, because I live in the real world and I know you do too. Tarnish resistant silver, as well as real sterling silver, is going to tarnish no matter what. That's just the reality of metals. They do tend to tarnish. However, the artistic wire does have a coating over the top of it. It's that coating that I was talking about that I don't want you to scrape off as you're pulling the wire through the beads. It will strip off if you're not careful. Will it strip off in normal, regular, everyday wear? It won't. That's why when you're using it to make your projects, you just want to be mindful of that. But in everyday wear, it's not going to come off. I treat my tarnish resistant artistic wire the same way I treat my my sterling silver, and that is I have a polishing cloth. And sometimes if I notice that it may start to get a little dark on me, I've never had it turn my finger green, but I have had it where the wire just begins to turn dark. Polish it with a polishing cloth, a soft lint-free cloth, or even a cloth that has silver polish in it will shine that wire right back up. So you just want to treat it the exact same way that you would treat your sterling silver. The difference is that I probably wouldn't wear it in like a chemical swimming pool, and I wouldn't do a lot of hand washing with it, but that's the way I treat all of my good jewelry. So you really don't want to treat it any differently, but be clear, everything tarnishes over time. That's just the reality of jewelry. What else we got, Nate?
Yes, we did have one other question about making this a little thicker here. I'm just trying to pull it up. Let's see here. Oh, yes. So Brittany was asking, how would you make a bracelet or earrings thicker with the seed beads?
Thicker as in wider?
I would imagine so. I would imagine that's what that meant.
Yeah, because if you were just going to make it longer, you would just add more beads. If you were going to make it wider, you probably would do a second row, which would be a whole nother class, which would probably be a pretty cool project. But you would do a whole second row, and you would share, instead of sharing that first bead in the little flower, you would actually share the first bead and the side bead. So I would make one strip, and then I would start over again at the top right next to it and share my top beads in the row going this direction, but then I'd share that side bead in the side section of your flowers. It's completely doable. If you have ever done right angle weave before, that's exactly what we were doing, but we were just doing it with wire. So you would treat it the same way you would if you were doing right angle weave and making it wider. Same thing, you just share a lot more beads, that's all.
Okay, and I think that's about it. If anyone has any questions, of course, these classes are being uploaded to YouTube. You can watch them again and again, or you can visit michaels.com and look at our previous class history and get the videos there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for helping me out, Nate. I appreciate it so much.
Of course. Well, thank you for another terrific class with you.
No problem, guys. I'm so thankful that you were all here today. And if you think of questions later, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am just a click away. You guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you again with my next class. Bye, guys.